Jesus. Hey guys, just a quick disclaimer before we get into this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the Chris Chibnall era of Doctor Who, but when I actually recorded this video, it hadn't yet been announced that Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker were both leaving the show after the next series. So everything I said was without that knowledge, so take it in that context. However, everything is still relevant. I still stand by everything I say in the video. It's just without that context, everything I say in the video might seem a bit out of date already at the time of it being uploaded, and I just wanted to explain that. So that's all. Hopefully you'll still enjoy the video though. So please give it a watch and let me know what you think. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Beer Chronicles. This episode is going to be a special episode because it is the first beer in this series that I have not tried before. This is Duvel. Not entirely sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it's the way it's spelt, so I'm going to assume it's right. And yeah, this is a Belgian strong blonde. I've never tried this before. It's a fairly small bottle, so this could be quite a short video. At the same time though, it is 8.5% ABV, so quite strong stuff. We'll see just how strong when I try it. It's got a strong smell already. It smells nice. It smells pretty typical, like you'd expect for a beer to smell. It does smell nice. I'm looking forward to trying this one. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. I do quite like that. It's don't quite know how to describe it. It's quite hoppy. Not overly so, but you know, it's quite nice. It's like a generic typical beer flavour, except deeper and richer. That's how I would describe it. You can tell that it's a stronger beer than others that you might be used to, but for an 8.5% beer, you'd expect it to taste too alcoholic and not really nice enough to enjoy. When you hear it's a beer at that higher percentage, you think, types of people who are going to drink that are probably going to be the types of people who just want to get pissed. But no, I could absolutely drink one of these just for the enjoyment of it. I do think it's quite nice. It tastes stronger, but it's not so alcoholic, not so ethanol-y that it's unpleasant. It's completely overshadowed by the flavour of the beer, which is a good thing. So yeah, that's quite nice. I should briefly explain, just in case this is the first of these videos that you're watching. This is a series called the Beer Chronicles. This is the 4th episode now, I believe, and what these basically are is there is a poster above my head. I've had this poster for God knows how long. It's been a very long time. I think I sort of worked out in an earlier video how long, but don't remember, it was well over a decade ago anyway. So I've had this for a long time, and you can see the frayed corners on it, and it's not in good condition anymore. It's got to go. But before it goes, I am determined to try every beer on that poster, and some of them I've already tried, but for the sake of this series I will try them again. The first 3 videos that we've done have been Budweiser, Corona and Beck's, which are all beers I'd already tried before, but I did them again for the chronicling. I quite like that. The chronicling. The Beer Chronicles. The chronicling. So that's what these videos are. I choose a beer for the video, I drink the beer during the video, and I just talk whatever's on my mind. It doesn't have to be anything specific, just whatever I feel like talking about at the time, until the beer is done. And when the beer's done, we'll end the video. We're going to make one of these for every beer on this poster until we have finished the poster, and then in the last episode I'll throw it away, and you'll all get to enjoy watching me throw out a bit of rubbish. Sounds pretty shit right now, but hopefully we'll have grown such an attachment to this over that time that it will be fairly emotional. I'm about a third of the way through this already. Like I say, it is it's strong, but it's small, so this may end up being a fairly short video, but I have got something planned to talk about, and I'm not sure if this was a good choice, because I could probably talk about this for 2 of these. This is something that I'll probably have a fair bit to say on it. I'm going to try and trim the fat and keep it brief, because, like I said, I've only got 2/3 of a Duvel to talk about it in. But what this is, if you haven't already read the title of the video, is we're going to be talking Doctor Who, and specifically the Chibnall era of Doctor Who, which, so far as to the recording of this video, only includes Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. And before we get into that, I just want to point out a couple of things briefly about the videos in general. I've finally, I don't know if you noticed in the early videos, but I finally cleaned up the bloody stains on my ceiling, which I never pointed them out before, so I don't know if you'd even noticed them, but if you go back and watch the early videos, there are some marks on the wall. What they were was, one time I opened a bottle of Dr. Pepper and it was over-fizzed and shot out so far that it hit the ceiling, and that's all that was. And because I'm actually recording videos pointing at that bit of ceiling, I thought it's probably a good idea to clean that off, so I've done that. And secondly, this half of my face and that sort of corner of the room is going to be a bit darker than usual today, because normally I set up one of my studio lights as well to shine on me to keep the whole thing evenly lit, and I just couldn't be asked today, so that's the genuine reason. That being said, let's talk Doctor Who. I've previously discussed Doctor Who in an earlier video with my friend Luke Gardner, who has his own YouTube channel, so please check that out if you haven't already. Both the early video and his channel. He's a good friend of mine and he's very passionate about what he does, so it would mean the world to him, I'm sure, and to me if you went and checked him out. I'll leave a link in the description for you to go do that. At the time, we uploaded a video on each channel. I uploaded a video where I asked him 10 questions about himself as a Doctor Who fan, and he uploaded one where he asked me 10 questions. So if you're interested in seeing my thoughts on the show in general, go check out his video, and if you are interested in seeing his, then check out mine. But today we are specifically going to be talking about the Chibnall era of Doctor Who and my thoughts on that, which I did briefly go over in his video, so again, another reason to check that out. But yeah, if you have watched that video, then you will know that I am not keen on the Chibnall era. I do not enjoy it. I actively hate what Chibnall is doing with Doctor Who. My phone just went off because I forgot to put it on silent. Okay, so back on track. Chibnall, I've written down some notes so I can sort of streamline what I'm talking about, because if I don't follow these notes, I'm just going to rant potentially for hours, and we don't have that much time. So I'm going to start with the most obvious factor of the Chibnall era so far, Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. Jodie Whittaker, a fine actress, absolutely wonderful at her job of acting. I'm not against the idea of there being a female Doctor, neither am I against the idea of Jodie Whittaker being the actress to portray the Doctor. I think that's all absolutely fine. Anyone who's angry at Doctor Who for having a female Doctor, you are wrong. It's absolutely fine to have a female Doctor. If you disagree with that, I don't like to get malicious on this channel. I like to be quite open and friendly with everyone. But if you are against a female Doctor, go fuck yourself. However, I do have problems with Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, and I do feel that they are not any fault of Jodie's herself. I feel that Chibnall cast Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor purely because he wanted a female to play the Doctor, and that is the only reason. He didn't think of character. All he thought was, I want to make a series of Doctor Who which purely exists just to demonstrate his own and the BBC in general, their stance on equality and how they're all for equality. And I feel that that is the sole reason for the existence of Doctor Who in its current form. I don't think Jodie Whittaker's Doctor leads on from the past Doctors organically. I think that with each incarnation of the Doctor, you can imagine the process that led to them regenerating to the next one. It all feels organic. You can imagine Christopher Eccleston became Christopher Eccleston because he was scarred by the things he had to do in the Time War, and it turned him into this more hardened version of the Doctor who had to be able to cope with that kind of thing emotionally. He then regenerated into Tennant, who was more socially open, willing to make friends, more likeable to those around him with his pretty boy looks and floppy hair. Very inviting. Matt Smith was an old, wizened Doctor who had been through so much, trying to hide that in the youngest body he'd had. He was the youngest actor to play the Doctor, but he was exquisite at playing someone with so much age and wisdom behind his eyes. And then when that Doctor had reached the end of his arc and finally come to terms with who he was and how much he'd been through and how old he really was, he then regenerated into Peter Capaldi, who was an older person, and he allowed himself to physically represent what he was inside. There is nothing at the end of Capaldi's arc that suggests that he should regenerate into Jodie's Doctor, and I don't mean there's nothing that suggests he should regenerate into a woman. I purely mean there's nothing that suggests that he should regenerate into Jodie's character. It's not an organic follow-up to Capaldi. I really feel that that is the case. I do feel that she was purely chosen not because she fit a character, but because she was a woman who could act. And that is the only reason. And I feel even her outfit demonstrates the mindset of the producers going in. She is dressed in rainbow patterns on her jumper and whatnot. If that's not to demonstrate their support of equality, using the colours of the LGBT community, I don't know what is. And I'm not saying you shouldn't support that community, because you should, obviously. No one deserves to be outcast. Everyone should have equal rights. I want to get that out there now. But there's a difference between, and I don't want this to get too political, there's a difference between equal rights and giving them everything and disregarding the straight white male entirely. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that the Doctor should have been another straight white male. I am perfectly happy for it to be a woman, like I've said, but what I feel is more important isn't to say, right, who have we had so far, who should we give a turn? That's not what's important. What they should do is think, right, Where does the character go from here? What do we want the character to become? What do we want the character to do? Then they should audition white males, black males, white women, black women, straight, gay, everyone. They should audition actors and actresses of all origins to find the perfect person who fits the character that they've written. And I just don't feel they did that at all. They just went with a female who Chibnall had worked with before, and so knew that she was a good actress and someone who could work with well. And it's clear that they had no idea what they were doing with the actual character. We have seen in interviews before the show was released that Chibnall expected Jodie to bring herself to the character, whilst Jodie expected Chibnall to inform her on what he wanted her to play as a character. The two ideals completely clashed. What we ended up getting was Jodie Whittaker reading lines from the script as if they were written for past Doctors. The lines weren't even written for her. They were just, okay, what sort of quirky things has the Doctor said up until now? We'll write lines that sort of match that theme. And it doesn't feel like she's her own unique character. It feels like they've made an amalgamation of the past Doctors and just given those lines for Jodie to say. The stories themselves are poorly written. Most of them I can't even remember. And as I brought up in the past video when I was talking about Star Wars, and specifically about Episode 2, the worst thing that any kind of film or TV show can do, the absolute worst sin, is to be boring. And when it leaves so little of an impact that you can't remember it, then it must have been boring. So, yeah. To me, just the fact that I myself, as a fan of Doctor Who, can't remember most of Jodie Whittaker's episodes goes to show that they must have been very poorly written. There is probably a lot more I could talk about before I just cut straight to the end, but I'm going to cut straight to the end and talk about the Timeless Child, because there's a very small amount of this left and I'm going to need a while to talk about that. Now, The Timeless Child was an arc that completely overshadowed the last series we had, which was Series 12? Yes, Series 12. At the time that I'm recording this, Series 13 hasn't come out yet, but I have no idea how long it's going to take me to actually start uploading these videos. So for all I know, that could have started by the time this comes out. But at the time of recording, there is no Series 13. Series 12 was the last one. And I'm still really, really salty about the end of Series 12. Timeless Child overshadowed the whole of Series 12. It was a reveal that was hinted at throughout the entire series, and whenever it came up before the final episode, whenever it was hinted at to keep you hooked and coming back for more, it was never relevant to the story it was in. The episode you were watching would play, and then, oh, guess what? There's some stuff coming up later in this series, some big reveals. You're gonna want to stick around for that. It was never introduced into the plot organically to the episode it was in. They purely put all these references to the destruction of Gallifrey and the Timeless Child into these stories that they didn't fit into, just so that you'd wonder what the hell it was, and therefore you would watch the series finale. It was purely put in there to make you come. To make you come. It was purely put in there to make you stay with the series and watch the last episode, because even if you're not enjoying it, it's part of your human nature that you want closure. Ah, oh, Chibnall. You're both completely ignorant to what you're doing and know exactly what you're doing. And then we get to the actual reveal. The actual Timeless Child reveal, where you find out that Time Lord Society was based on some random entity, some personage from somewhere, and we don't know where. It appeared out of a portal. It was a young girl could have been from a different part of the universe, could have been from a different universe entirely, could have been from anywhere. We do not know the origins of this personage. This child was taken and raised by a Time Lord, well, a Gallifreyan scientist. They weren't Time Lords at this point, but by a Gallifreyan scientist by the name of Tecteun. And there was an accident with the child. She fell off a cliff and died. And then she regenerated. And this is how regeneration was introduced to the Gallifreyan society. Tecteun noticed that this child was not dead and had come back in a different body, and that's the sort of thing that you'd probably notice. And then she took this child, strapped her to a table, performed experiments on this child where she kept killing it repeatedly, and I say it instead of she because, you know, regeneration kept flipping between genders and whatnot, which is absolutely fine, makes perfect sense. I have no thoughts, okay? I'm not making this political. I have thoughts. I have no ill thoughts on the switching of genders in Time Lord society. When it was first introduced as a concept, it felt weird to me. But I think that was mainly because I was looking on Time Lords as being a humanoid society and mammalian. And I think the whole reason it felt weird to me was purely because I was thinking of how that would work in terms of reproduction. You know, as long as that can be explained, then the actual concept of regeneration allowing you to switch genders, I think that's fine. And there should be times when women, as well as men, get the chance to step up and perform the lead role. Absolutely. But going back to the timeless child thing, child kept getting killed in experiments, which is kind of dark, but it's okay because the episode is presenting it as a dark thing. It's meant to be like the dark secret past of Time Lord society. This is where regeneration came from. These experiments were performed to cause the child to continuously regenerate so that it could be studied, and basically regeneration energy was created from these experiments, and this is what allowed Time Lords to regenerate, and all of that is fine. This is one of those going back and making some changes to the lore of the show that I'm okay with, because it doesn't fundamentally change everything leading up till now. It just adds a new spin on what we already know, and it's fine, and in fact it's good. This would have been, you know, an okay reveal that Time Lords, their whole regeneration ability and their society in general, was built on the foundation of these dark, inhumane experiments on a child from another place. And that would have raised some questions as to the ethicalness of Time Lords, which is something that isn't too surprising because we know Time Lords to not necessarily be morally incorrupt at this point in time. And then it's revealed that the Doctor is the timeless child. That child who was experimented on by Tecteun and caused to continuously regenerate was the Doctor. And that is where it goes to shit. I absolutely 110% hate that, because now the Doctor is potentially a being of limitless regenerations, which means there are no stakes whenever the Doctor's life is in danger. That alone, from a storytelling point of view, just makes problems going forward. But not only that, going back, the whole concept of the show itself, what Doctor Who is and what the Doctor is, it's all ruined by this, because the Doctor has always been, I don't want to say nobody, because the Doctor has come from Gallifreyan society, and in other parts of the universe that does put them like intellectually superior than the majority of people they come across, because Time Lords are very evolved. And so it just stands to reason that when the Doctor comes to somewhere like, say, Earth, the Doctor is always going to be the smartest person in the room. But the Doctor was never a god. The Doctor was always a mortal, fallible being who could make mistakes, who was generally highly intelligent, but not super powered in any way. They could time travel, which is quite impressive, but the main concept of that was just to put them in different spots for stories to take place, rather than for the time travel itself to be used to get them out of situations. But yeah, the Doctor was always just someone who was never unbeatable. They were just a person, a highly intellectual person, but a person nonetheless, who just travelled around because they didn't agree with the whole concept of their original society's take on time travel, which is they should never get involved with stuff. The Doctor was always someone with a good mind and a pure heart. And whenever they came across a villain, someone who was doing evil in the universe, they felt obliged to use their intellectual prowess to defeat this evil and make the universe a better place. And that's wonderful. And the truly wonderful thing about that is that they did it with no concern for their own well-being. They could easily have faced death in so many situations, but they still felt the need to step in and make a difference where they could, because they were the one with the intellectual capacity to do what was right. And if they left it to others, things could go horribly awry. And it was dangerous. They could go into a situation and they might not come out of it alive, but they would do it anyway, because it was the right thing to do to make this situation better and, in the whole, make a positive effect on the universe and on time itself. And that is wonderful, and that is the wonderful thing about the Doctor as a character. They put others before themselves when they don't have to, because they are the ones with the knowledge and the skill to make the difference that is needed. And now it's just not that anymore. Now it's literally become the Doctor is pretty much all powerful for all we know. Can't really die. He'll step in and make differences because it's the right thing to do, which is still great. But why wouldn't you do that when there's no real consequences anymore? Obviously you're going to step in and make the changes you feel need to be changed when you don't feel there's any negative outcome to you doing so. It's just changed the whole core premise of what the show even is and what the character of the Doctor is. And I do hope that going into season 13, Chibnall can make something out of this. I really genuinely hope he can. I went into season 11 hopeful and was disappointed. I went into season 12 with low expectations, started to enjoy it for what it was, and then was smacked in the balls by the final episode. And so I do not have a lot of trust in Chibnall. I'll admit that. I'm fully expecting him to completely fuck the series over, but he has a chance to make something out of this, and I really hope he does. Chibnall, for the love of God, please let it be revealed that you had a greater plan to this, and that the reveal of the Doctor as the Timeless Child is a setup to something more, which undoes everything that is wrong with the current situation as it is at the moment. Let more be revealed about the Doctor's origins now that makes it not as damaging to the character, or let this be a setup that has the rug pulled out from underneath it and it turns out that it was all a misdirection. That's what the show needs. If you stick to your guns about the Doctor just being this all-powerful being, then you are killing the show. You really are. But there is still time to fix this, and I have not lost all hope yet. Although I am sceptical based on Chibnall's current performance. I do feel the show is more likely to make something of this if a different head took over to make something of it rather than Chibnall himself, because I'm really not happy with what he's done with the show so far. The drink is finished, and that is where I'll end it. generally negative, but with a hint of hope in the background. And also, just to truly demonstrate my thoughts on this whole Timeless Child thing, I've got written on my notes of what I was going to talk about today. Everything that I've talked about, the reveal of Timeless Child fundamentally breaks the show, and then at the end, because I knew I was going into Timeless Child, all I've put is, as my last note, rant for a bit about that, because I knew that once we got to Timeless Child, I was going to be able to talk throughout whatever quantity of drink was left, and I could talk even more about it. I really genuinely could, but we're out of time. I didn't even get into how Joe Martin's incarnation of the Doctor makes no sense. I don't have time to talk about it, but, you know, quickly, because I need to get out there. Set before Hartnell still has a police box as the TARDIS. That alone. It doesn't fucking work, Chibnall. So we are one more beer down. Duvel has been crossed off the list. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it is a very nice drink. Again, stronger than the other kinds of beers I'm used to, but not ruined by the strength of the alcohol. Very much a depth of flavours there that covers that and makes it a pleasant experience. And also, as you're drinking it, by the time you get to the end of it, you've become used to the alcohol content, and so it becomes less noticeable by the end of that, and therefore you're enjoying the drink even more. So yeah, that was a good beer. It's the first one in these Chronicles that I haven't tried before, so you finally get to see me try a new experience. Also, we talked a bit about Chibnall era Doctor Who. I don't think anything I said will be a hot take. There are quite a few people unhappy with the show at the moment, and I'm definitely one of them. I've given all my reasons why. We'll leave it at that. We'll bring this video to an end. Once again, if you're interested in my thoughts on Doctor Who, then please check out my friend's video that he did where he asked me questions on it. His name is Luke Gardner. Again, I've mentioned all this earlier, but just to cover it again, I'll put a link down in the description for you to see that video. Please check out the rest of his channel if you're interested in Doctor Who stuff, because his channel is exclusively Doctor Who. So if you're interested, go check him out. Also, feel free to check out my video where I ask him questions if you want to learn more about him as a Doctor Who fan. Other than that, there is nothing else to say, so we shall bring this to a close. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're enjoying the series so far, and I hope that you will join me for the rest of them until we eventually finish the poster. If you did like this, please leave a like to let me know that you liked it. That way I know that you liked it, and when I know what you like, I can continue to make stuff that you like. And if you didn't like it, feel free to press dislike. Or else how am I going to know what you don't like and work around that? If you do want to keep up to date with this series as it goes along, then please subscribe to the channel to be notified on new videos when they come out. And to actually be notified when a new video comes out, then ring the notification bell as well. Also, as a final note, if any of you agree or disagree with my thoughts on the current state of Doctor Who, then please leave a comment explaining your thoughts on it. But please do not turn the comment section into an argument. There is no need for argumentation here. Let's all be friends. Keep it civil. Keep it friendly. Explain your opinion. Respect the opinions of others. If any of you comment below this video that you are a big fan of the current era of Doctor Who, that is fine. Even though I hate it, I'm glad that you can get enjoyment out of it. It's just not what I'm looking for in the show right now. But I am interested to hear your thoughts on it, so please do feel free to leave a comment if you'd like. Other than that, once again, thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And that's it.